Hello, one and all, and welcome back to another thrilling episode. Not of Dimension 20, but of Fundamental Forest. That is right, it is the series in which we take those scenario skills we have honed playing the game of Roller Coaster Tycoon, and we bring them into a sandbox setting, that setting where we can let our imagination run wild. We're not using any of the fancy hacks, we're not using any of the crazy stuff that Open Roller Coaster Tycoon can do. It's just solid fundamentals, which is the stuff that really matters at the end of the day, or at least that is the thesis statement of this YouTube series. Welcome to episode 19, guys. Isn't that crazy? Because it's episode 20 next week, I have an idea for you guys. I want to treat episode 20 like a look back, a retrospective on what we've done so far in this series. I mean, look at it. Look at all of that. We even made the map bigger recently. So what I want to know from you guys, is there any sort of favorite moments that you guys have? And the important thing that I'd like to know from you guys is I want to make a little sort of list of the most important lessons that we've learned so far. I've made some notes of my own, but because I'm so close to the project, I feel like I might be blind to some stuff. So if you guys can, jump into the comments and give me some of your favorite advice that you've learned from this series. And don't like be embarrassed if it's something really, really basic, because often those are the most hard lessons to learn because they are so out there in the open. Sometimes the complex lessons are kind of the easiest ones because you've got to lock in. Some of the more subtle ones might be a bit more valuable for a lot of people. So anything that you guys have learned, anything that you guys have found valuable, I'd love to know what it was. Jump down in the comments. I'd really love that. And I'll say it again, guys. All of the comments that you guys leave, they go a long way, not only to helping me, but to helping this community grow. When you leave a comment, it lets YouTube know that this is a video that's worth watching. It puts it in front of new people, it helps our community grow. So I'd like to thank you guys so much. Every week I get so many comments from beautiful people. I see the same names, I see new names coming in. I'm just so happy to see you guys. But on that topic, really quickly, I'd like to talk about something. It's something that's been on my mind recently. I don't know when YouTube added this, but they've started integrating AI into a lot of stuff. I am not someone who appreciates AI. I don't really want to get into any fights about this. I know some people love AI. I'm not one of those people. I think it's awful. But something that sort of made me quite concerned and made me want to just put something out in the open and to make a promise to you guys. YouTube now has the option for me to respond to your guys' comments with AI. The idea that somebody could do me the honor of not only watching one of my videos, but leaving a thoughtful comment, and then I would respond with AI, so I wouldn't even respond, it would be the AI doing it. That offends me. So I want to promise you now, everything that you see on this channel, from my logo, which was made by Big Shooter Gill, to everything that you see here, to the thumbnails, to everything, to every single comment, to every single script, everything that you see on this channel, all of it is made by a human. None of it is made by AI. I value you guys so much. I want you guys to be certain that when someone speaks to you from this channel, it is a human being, it is me. And whilst we're in the serious kind of mood, I'd just like to share something else with you guys. I've been experiencing some wrist pain, and probably the first thing you guys are thinking, that sounds like carpal tunnel. Yep, carpal tunnel, who could have guessed? I've got an ergonomic mouse on the way, which I'm really excited for, to be honest. I can't wait for it to get here. It's one of those sideways ones. Now maybe that's a scam, and the sideways ones are just rubbish, who knows? We're gonna find out. But I just wanted to give you guys fair warning. If there's a bit of a downtick in the length of the videos maybe, as I'm trying to keep away from the computer a little bit, my apologies for that, but obviously I'm gonna put my health first, and so should you guys. But yes, let me tell you what we're going to be getting on with this week. Later in the episode, we are going to be joined by the one and only Liampie, who's going to be doing us the absolute honor of chatting with us about a very significant contribution he made to the community recently, which I think has gone a little bit underappreciated. But in the meantime, we are going to be building on our contest submission. Now, I believe that the deadline is next week. Now, I should really make sure I know when it is, because it'll be bad if I miss the deadline. But this week we don't spend much time in this map, we're spending more time over on that contest map. I'm really glad that you guys have been appreciating hearing about that process of making a contest submission, because it is a different skill that I think everybody could benefit from. So we've got a super fun episode coming up in episode 20 when we do our retrospective, but then episode 21, we're probably going to be straight back into Fundamental Forest, full speed ahead. So what are you doing still here? Get into the episode. Go, go, go. Hello, everybody. Progress has been made. It might not seem like much, but these steps at the beginning are like some of the most challenging ones when you're trying to place everything where it feels like it should be. And that's a big challenge. And see, probably the most progress I've made, weirdly, is in this back corner. I was experimenting a little bit with having a more hellish sort of end section to this queue to get you hyped to get on the ride. I'm not sure it's right currently, because it just doesn't feel like it's all the way there, but I'm liking the vibe. I feel like maybe it needs to be a bit more of an open space, or maybe just push these corners out so it's square and have a big pool of hellish blood. The river Styx in the middle. Also, I've got some no hacks detail in there by having a transfer track sort of motors along here that can hopefully drag this track across and put them into our little storage / maintenance shed that we have here. I was trying to get our go away green thing going on here, but it looks quite weird as it stands right now. There's also this part of the queue here, which is... This area turned out to be pretty awkward as I was trying to do the layout of the place, but I feel like having it as a little like hidden garden sort of feeling actually works quite well for it. Having these sightlines be so like sneaky through here, some people might see that and think it's a downside, and I'd respect the opinion of those people. I don't think that they're necessarily wrong in that. Something that's challenging in sort of pure NCSO is getting these, when you've got a diagonal, how do you support a diagonal? Doing the regular directions is pretty trivial, but doing a diagonal, it's like, what on earth do you even do in that situation? I shall have to just try and find something that works in that situation. I think it's actually fine for us to just have the regular supports there. Hopefully I can make one appear here. I don't know how I'd go about doing that, because I think maybe this one that would come here is conflicted by maybe one of these, who knows? But for now, I think we'll just have that and then it progresses normally. I'm trying to get a water ride down here, but it's so like... So you can't see it from this angle, you can't see it from this angle. You can't see it from this angle, you can only see it from this angle. I know there's not that much track there, but it's so awkward to get the track down there that it really makes me wonder why we are even bothering when we can do more powerful things with our time. Having this water down here isn't an issue at all. We can just have it as like a nice feature that's down there, maybe a waterfall coming into it. I think that could be really cool. But getting a water ride down there, it's too much. It's too much. So I think we get rid of this and we do something a little bit different. I had done a draft. Maybe we can find it in our saved games. Yeah, here we go. I tried to do something like this, but I felt like it was taking away from that low to the ground feeling that was making this work for me. And it felt a little bit forced. This could work. I bet some people are looking at this and saying, Sam, that's great. Why don't you do that? And for me, it wasn't quite clicking for me. And it felt very forced, and I really just didn't feel like I wanted to force it. I want for this, the thing that's going to get me the most mileage out of this project is going to be things feeling very natural, the macro sort of naturally hitting, rather than feeling too forced. It's a tricky one though, it is really, really challenging. This is Stolen from Leafy Lake, which was made by Mandelzeg, Pacific Coast, Swag Titties, and Mamarius. I'm not sure which of them did this. I'm not sure if it's in 50 million parks before that, but I just had to play around with it, and the colours sort of matched up for this design. These are like the default colours, and you can see that this is red, and this is red, and this just happened to be like, what colours are these? Like, is that sepia? Yeah, those colours just seemed to go together like that, so I'm wondering if we can get that in there without it feeling a bit too... It sort of looks a bit Asian, that, doesn't it? It might not work for our ancient Greek vibe that we're trying to go for. And this building, this purple's obviously, it's not hidden the way it should be, is it? I'm imagining that this is the exit path, so the exit would come through here. There'll be a gift shop, there'll be some toilets maybe, and that way the guests can rejoin near to where they left the path to join the queue for Into Hades. I'm thinking of maybe having these statues in the entrance. This lady's pretty awkward. Let's zoom out a bit. Yeah, she's awkward. She's got like her arm out, but not really in any sort of charismatic pose. And this guy's kind of just lazy. Look at him. He's just stood there, not doing anything. But I feel like this is a good place for the queue to start, because I really wish that it didn't have this part going over here, because it feels like very nuts and bolts for something that's supposed to be a bit more wondrous, if that makes sense. But you've got a sightline from here to like this huge helix that's going over the top and then finishing into the brake run here. The broader macro of the piece, it's like nestled into like a place where it's almost like this is the only place where the entrance is exposed to us as a viewer. So I'm thinking of having like a tall element that can be seen from here as well, and you'd know, oh, that's where I'm heading. And obviously you've either come from this direction or you've come from this direction or this direction, and whichever way you slice it, I'm thinking it's going to be pretty challenging for me to cover up these huge elements here so that they aren't visible for hype purposes. And if you're coming from this direction, you're kind of obliged to see this section over here if you come in this way. I'm going to do my utmost not to obscure any of this around here to make sure that's always visible, but I could maybe have a building like maybe here for what I don't yet know, or maybe like a ride. We could maybe have a ride here. I'd really love to have a water ride, but I don't know how I'm going to wangle it, truth be told. So I've come onto this children's website to find the factors of 3600, which is the maximum map size. So the maximum of any edge has to be equal to or less than these values. So for example, we could have 59 by 59 or like 49 by 71. Just so long as it doesn't exceed these pairs of numbers, we can get silly with it. So maybe we should look at the size of 50 and the size of 72 to see if maybe the macro those things would sort of make us feel are a bit more fitting. I'm thinking like, yeah, maybe 50's good. So 50 would be like from the bottom left hand corner to the top right hand corner, how we're looking at it now. We'd want to be able to fit in the path we've got down here, because we want a little bit of space down by the bat wing where we can finagle some interesting interaction. And we'd also want to leave a little bit of clearance on the other side to make sure we're fitting in that Immelman that we love so much. So there's actually 5 by 5 on either side of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 5 like this. And we're going to imagine that that's what we cut off. And we'll just go like that. And then 72. So we can do 50 by 72. 64 is the maximum. Oi, oi, oi. So what we'll do is we'll just put 12 instead. So the maximum this way we'd have. So if we wanted a differently sized map, I think the size of map that we could reasonably get away with and still have cool stuff going on would be to clip off these tiles here and then take them, put them together, slap them on the side and glue them onto this part here. That's literally the maths. You could do this with a piece of paper, which is quite fun, isn't it? And then we could have a more extensive area here to have maybe a more developed water ride. Because right now, what have we got here? We've got some backstage area. I'm thinking, do we need to expand this little part out? Is this too claustrophobic? So if we were to add a supporting ride, a water ride, I think we would add it in this direction. It's a shame that I don't think we're going to be able to get a really good interaction happening. Unless maybe we do it in this area around the Immelman. Or here, near to the Cobra Roll, could be a possible place. Which, to be honest, it could be really cool that. We could have the splashdown if we imagine such a thing. Like this. This planning on the ground here is actually a restaurant that I thought would be good to have nestled here in between these things, and you could have an eatery underneath where this Cobra Roll is. But I'm thinking maybe that could be pretty unpleasant, actually. You're getting flip-flops flying at you. There's all sorts of wallets and iPhones clacking you in the head when you're trying to have a sandwich. An overpriced sandwich at that. And we know it's going to be overpriced. I might be the designer, but I'm not in charge of the business decisions that are going on. This water here is a remnant of the designs that I had going on here, but I actually think the water down here isn't unpleasant, and we could have some fountains going on like this. This feature here... this feature here, let's have a look at some of my past work really quickly, shall we? This here is Elizabeth Dale. This is a park that I did a long time ago, and I'm proud of it for when I did it, but right now you can obviously see that there's a lot of faux pas that I wouldn't want to commit nowadays. It's a bit muddled, it's a bit sort of, it doesn't have very clear vision. There's certain bits that like shine through like great macro, like this stuff here. This area over here I really like because it's just a beautiful garden, but the rest of it feels very cramped and not in that way that's really cool. Sometimes you can have a cramped environment that's really like high density, and it's really, and the high density makes it feel very intense and all that good stuff. By the way, this does use hacks, because I always get questions about this. I really should make it clear, because this series is obviously predominantly about not using hacks. So sometimes I show something on the stream and I really should make clear this is something that uses hacks. It's no custom scenery objects, obviously, but there are hacks involved in this one. And I'm very proud of the fact that I've progressed so much from this point, and I'm doing the fundamental forest stuff now. It doesn't use any hacks, but it feels way more composed than this does. But here's a little macro thing here. We can see in this direction there's a big path that heads this way, and at the end of it there's a sign here. I feel like it's a bit busy, but it says Elizabeth Dale, and we can imagine that these are clouds, and this is a monument, and this is the sun. But the batwing comes out of the wall, it goes over this area, there's some rapids down below, there are some water features. Ain't that great? But it does appear like I'm addicted to that, because let's look at another one of my creations. I actually just found a different project. This one uses hacks as well, by the way. But this one, I tried to make like a big park, but I just didn't have the vision just yet. But even still, there's some like nice macro things going on. I feel like this is from before Elizabeth Dale as well, so I don't know what went wrong. I did know that I wanted to have a big hotel, because I just loved that about older parks, how they'd have like a hotel and then there'd be like a big park. But this is obviously very fantasy inspired. You know what? I actually really like the stuff that's here. Isn't that crazy? Why is that so glitchy? I wonder if we can fix that in Tile Inspector. I think maybe I wasn't as versed in Tile Inspector as I am now. I'm an expert. But these colors are really vivid and nice, and obviously this big, what's this called? This is called Barracuda. Not spelled correctly. Ah, finally found it. It was in NCSO Bench for some reason. But here we go. Here's the Batwing. There's some water features. There's a splash down there. We've got a fountain, the rapids. The whole gang's here. Wow, this is really cool. And I remember getting messaged by some of the Open Roller Coaster Tycoon people saying, hey, if you make this bigger, we'll include it in the title sequence. And I just went, no. And I regret that, because I could have had this in the title sequence for the game. And I know now you can obviously do like the title sequence contests and stuff. It's very, very open-handed of them to say you can have your stuff in the title sequence. A worse group of people would have just said, we have a title sequence, we don't need to worry about that anymore. But these guys, they say, let's keep on updating it so that it keeps up with all the skill and talent that's being displayed by our community. So the title sequence changes, but I don't. Look at that, the Batwing coming out of the wall, the rapids and stuff like that. The thing is, that is such a great experience for the guests, isn't it? To look out here and see what's going on there. I'm jealous of them. So yes, the water interacting with the Batwing. I've used every fibre of my resistance to stop myself letting it burst out of a cliff face. And I think I am going to want to have this area very grassy and very open. It would feel very appropriate. Looking at this, I'm realising now I'll have to drop it down a bit because the water level, if it were directly underneath here, would be up against these paths here, and we don't want our water level to be the same height as the paths, because then if it rained even one drop, it would flood the entire path, and we really don't want that. But maybe, looking at it again, maybe we'll want to have this path be higher, because right now we've got this step down here, and I thought that that would make it cool and charismatic, and maybe if I was using hacks and stuff like that, I'd be able to pull that off. But I think for my money, with the rule set and objects that we're using here, I think maybe this would benefit from not dropping down here and remaining a bit higher up. And then maybe, so I think I need to make a decision on whether or not I want this to be this height or one taller. So here we have a first draft of a log flume over on this side of the park. I've raised all of this stuff and I've made this path, instead of being the same as this, I've made it like a wooden boardwalk sort of thing. And we're coming to our final drop here. So it's only got 3 drops, 1, 2, 3. But I feel like it's got that good arrow feeling whilst feeling modern as well. I'm picturing being able to see into here from this path, and then it sort of comes around this S-bend through and up into here. Similar thing around here, you'd be able to see this from down there. Maybe have this be a river that's coming off here, like you're going upstream. And then the final drop is right here. And then it ambles back this way. And I'm thinking we're definitely going to have some platforms here where you can spray these guys. Because they're wet already. They've just done the final splash. So what do we think of that? This whole thing is sort of coming through very much within the tile requirement. We've got too many tiles, I feel like. And I think we should just move with that feeling. We shouldn't get too afraid of that. I'm thinking like I've got to make the most of this space, but I really don't. You know, less is more most of the time. There's no need to gild the lily. If we've got something that's working, you're more likely to make it not work than you are likely to make it better by making it bigger. So let's not worry too much, eh? And there's the big final splash. It's a shame that the default logs don't have that sprite, but I guess they don't want to change them, do they? But honestly, I think that's the winner there. I don't think it really needs to have any other angles it needs to work from, to be honest. So it like works from this. This will be really nice from this angle because we will have... Let's demonstrate. I'm here talking a big game about this. This sort of like finesse where you sort of develop the forms a bit. It does just... You do just need a bit of experience to be able to imagine those ones into existence. But maybe we could have that part. Yes, I want to have the spray guns on here. Like this. I'm just trying to think, how are we going to like object these in? And that's where they're coming from? And like these are the controls? I don't know, it's hard. Maybe we could replace this. It would get a lot easier if we just replaced these with just objects instead of like actual footpath. So all it really depends upon is whether we want peeps to be down here, because we could just replace this with like wooden blocks, for example. In a moment of great satisfaction for me, the rapids track. It fits underneath this log flume as it is here, so we can have rapids at the top and we can also have rapids at the bottom, because I think this is one of those situations where the fact that this is a little bit hidden actually works in our favour. Now we have to get this down here, that's the biggest challenge. Oh, we need to be higher. Let me delete all of that. Nice, isn't that awesome? And this bridge going across it as well. Great. You love to see it. And we'll do a similar thing over here, I think. I'm thinking of having one waterfall here where it comes down, and then having water going down underneath here, and then having a waterfall here as well. I think we're going to allege that this isn't quite tall enough to have rapids here, though I would really, really, really like to have rapids there. Just makes that a bit more dynamic, doesn't it? A bit more interesting, and we can't really see it from that angle, but that is all well and good and fine and dandy and okay and tolerable. And then I think we can probably hide a little waterfall under here, have this be a bit higher, or maybe we can't. Heavens above. This is where cutaway view comes in handy, because then we can just come in here, and I'm hoping that we can sell this drop down a little bit by adding in a little bit of white water. You know what? We can't even see it. It's invisible. I did all of that for nothing. That looks freaky like that, doesn't it? It's like we can't figure out like how it's gone down. Maybe we should have it be... It's a bit of an optical illusion, that, isn't it? I didn't expect for this particular part of it to be so challenging. Hello, we have found ourselves in the age-old situation where I really don't feel like building right now, but we've got a competition to finish, so I've got to build. So what I've been doing is I've just been trying stuff out. I'm not feeling inspired, so I've just been building to build. I've tried to do something that's like Ephera inspired over here from Hades 2. Sorry, am I interrupting your having a loud vehicle? And Ephera is like a destroyed town that's been like taken over by the evil forces in the game. I've also replaced all this with scenery, as I was threatening earlier, which allows us a bit more freedom with the scenery. It means peeps won't come down here and hang out, but I think that's a reasonable compromise. I've also been developing this scenery a little bit to sell this feature a bit more. I'm thinking let's add some space for trees in this corner. I think we can do it up a little bit. There ain't nothing wrong with that. Should we raise this up as well? And then we can vary up that texture a bit just with some dirt. Dirty grass. Great addition to the game, by the way. We love the dirty grass around here. I think there's a tendency when you're doing a project like this, which you've not got that much time to do because it's almost like a speed contest, and you look at it and you think, but there's so much I've got to achieve. There's a tendency to fall victim to despair, let's say. And that sounds dramatic, but I feel like it's accurate as well. You just go, it can't be done. And my advice for that is to just break it down into bite-sized parts you can manage. Just there, we completed a task by just saying, I just want to attack this little area. And yes, I was feeling a bit devoid of inspiration in that moment, but sometimes your hands do the work for you and the instinct just kicks in, and that just requires experience, and the only way to get experience is to build. So the solution to that feeling of like, I'm really not inspired but I've not got enough time to leave it and come back later, is to just get in there, make some mistakes, do some stuff wrong. I've been developing this stuff as it goes along, and once you make the mistake you can fix it, but you can't fix it if you've not made the mistake yet. So really, guys, we've just got to lock in and behave like we can win this thing, because if we don't believe we can win this thing, no one else is going to believe it, are they? Dealing with clearances is one of the most frustrating challenges of this game, but that's okay, The amount of suffering is really quite manageable, all things considered, I think. This week we've got another amazing special guest, but instead of it being a guest who wants us to look at their park, or a guest that we are quizzing about their park, we are highlighting a community contribution. That is right, the beloved Liam, known to everybody at New Element. They used to be an admin, they've won numerous head-to-heads, just a huge community contributor, and they've gone and done it again. Liam is someone who I believe is one of the only people who possibly could have done this project. This is the history of Spotlights. This essay is extremely readable, super fun to read, full of great screenshots, and it will pique your curiosity about the history of this game. This is over 15,000 words. This is almost like a master's dissertation, isn't it? And I don't think that enough people have commented on this. It's literally got 3 comments, and I'm one of them. I believe a lot of people have read this, but you need to get in here. Go and sign in. Go and leave some comments. Say, thank you, Liam, you did this. This is incredible. So today, I'm having a little interview with Liam, and we're going to get into all the details. Now, in the background, I'm going to be building in Loopy Landscapes, but the thing is, I am very distracted with the interesting conversation I'm having with Liam, so my apologies if the background footage is a bit boring. But the plan was, I've never included Loopy Landscapes building on this series before, so I kind of want to do a little bit more of that just to show you guys what it was like as well. I might do another video, you know, like how we did with 8 cars, showing how challenging that was, but the like powerful things we could do with it. I'm thinking I want to do that with Loopy Landscapes as well, because Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 has come and made vanilla Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 pretty much obsolete. There's not been that same event happening for Loopy Landscapes, because in a sense, why should it? So the sport of Loopy Landscapes is still in a very similar position that it was. And I think doing the Spotlight stream the other week, which is available on this channel if you haven't seen it already, it wasn't included in the Fundamental Forest series because it was a bit more of just a live stream I uploaded in its totality. But it's a super fun live stream. I'm hanging out with all my mates, all the admins over at New Element, and we just get really into looking at these ancient parks. Some more recent ones as well, but there's a lot of old ones in there. But with that being said, go over, check out this essay. It is amazing. Thank you so much, Liam. And let's jump into our conversation with the man himself. All right, the recording has begun. So watch what you say, all right? I've got you captured in 4K.
Okay, just got it out of the way.
It is my pleasure to welcome Liam to the call. How are you doing, Liam?
Hey, Sam. Great. Very excited for this. Something to spice up my 4-day boring weekend. So let's go.
There's no such thing as boring weekends, only boring people.
True.
Have you ever considered that?
It was boring on paper until I talked to you.
Oh, thank you. Stop it. First, maybe we should do like a profile for you. What are your like accolades that you've had? I'm not talking accolades on New Element, though many of them are on New Element. But what if you were to be a historian on yourself, how would you describe yourself and your role in the community?
I started out as a talent, and I think I was kind of a top tier player a little bit. I think I peaked around, I don't know, between at 7 and 8. I was really good back then, and anything I wanted to make, I was able to make it to my own satisfaction. And then I got a bit behind. Yeah, I think I'm a mid-tier player. I like what I do, but I don't want to bother competing with all these new people, and I enjoy dive history. Like some people are looking forward, I started to enjoy looking back. So keep it simple, not bothering and looking at old parks, trying to emulate old parks. I think that's my niche now, and I enjoy it.
As you should. I think it's a good thing to settle into a niche that like makes you happy, that sets you apart from others, because that's the thing that's going to make you... When we talk about tiers when we're building, the only time that really sort of comes up is in like a competitive setting. But the nature of this game is that it is very subjective as well. So sometimes people will see how I vote on things and they'll be like, why did you vote this in this particular way? And the only answer you can really give is, it's a subjective thing. I enjoyed it more perhaps than you did. I know it's like weird looking to you maybe, but I found it really appealing. So settling into like something that works for you maybe isn't like the top tier of like technical play is no bad thing at all. In fact, I'd recommend it for most people. Like find an area that nobody can compete with you on. And we are filled with a community of people who are like that, who are sort of inimitable is the word I'd use. We've got like, who's going to go out there and compete with Jag? You know what I mean? Nobody. Jag has the Jag corner, and we should all learn things from Jag, but we can never be Jag. And I think that's the same for you, Liam. The thing that I'd like to speak with you today about is recently you made a huge long essay about the history of spotlights, which in a way is sort of the history of New Element. Like how New Element began, where it was born from, where it emerged from. It's an amazing essay. Everybody should go and read it right now. But I just wanted to get some extra details from you, have a bit of like an advertisement for it in our conversation, and hopefully get everybody else's enthusiasm up the way that I am so enthused about it. So tell me a bit about why you decided to do this project, how long it took, all of this stuff. So let's start from the beginning. What made you sit down and say, I should make an essay about the history of spotlights?
That's actually a really good question, because it's a boring answer, but I don't remember. I don't remember where the idea originated. Probably something on Discord. We always throw random ideas around. I suppose they stuck in the back of my mind. And then when it turned out, we were about to have the 100th spotlight. That triggered me into actually starting to do this. Although I did build on stuff I did earlier. Because in the past I made some tables, lists, and I figure out what's the average spotlight size, and then I figured out I can calculate the density with the object count. And I guess this was a moment for me where I was like, I can pick that up again and maybe write something about it. And then it got bigger and bigger. And I think it was in July that I started this project. So I made a post backstage. I actually restricted backstage access still, precisely for writing purposes. So I opened the topic and I started with the introduction and the contents, and I divided the history in rough chapters, which I changed later. And then it started to become a fill in the blanks kind of exercise. But yeah, it started out much smaller. Yeah, it's crazy how it happened. I kind of cursed myself for taking on such a large project, but I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah, maybe cursed is the right word, because it turned out so comprehensive. It must have taken you just such a incredibly long time to not only get all the information together from somewhere miraculously, like information that hadn't been lost in like website changes, forums being inaccessible, lost in terms of like if people had files uploaded to third-party websites. I suppose that's the great thing about New Element, is that it is a fantastic archive tool for the community. So just for a bit of clarity, you used to be an admin, but you're no longer an admin. You've stepped down from your admin role, but you have for some reason found the task of archiving too addictive to let go. You just couldn't leave it by the wayside, which I'm glad that the admins have left. It would be ridiculously silly for them to say, you're not an admin, you're kicked out, you're not allowed back in. That would be crazy, because there's not enough people doing it.
We made a new subforum. It's called Liampie. And I transferred some things over from the admin section to some personal projects and things with archival value. And I said I'll step for my admin tasks because it doesn't suit me anymore. But the one thing I will always have some drive for, I want to continue doing that, and which is doing the writing, the archiving work. Yeah, and I'm glad they picked it up and they supported it. And I can imagine they had some doubts. I was actually going to live up to this role, because I haven't done much at all since I stepped down. But I was glad to prove them that I still contribute in an official way. And it felt good for me as well to feel useful.
I think the way the community works is that we take from people what they can put forward. So if your output is maybe a bit slow, maybe you shouldn't be like an admin, but no one's going to turn down the excellent work you do in terms of being like an archivist. Tell us a bit about the lengths you had to go to like get all of this information together. Was it a walk in the park? Was it challenging? We can see from the actual essay that there's still a lot of stuff that's missing. Like, when did you decide, all right, I shouldn't worry about those missing ones anymore. They're either going to show up or they're not going to show up. I just have to release this essay.
I think we have to rewind a decade. Yeah, I think when NE5 went live in 2013, I was a fresh admin back then, and it turned out that all the ParkMaker pages that we had, it was during the transition from NE3 to NE4, that the old ParkMaker system was abandoned entirely, and with it also the ParkMaker pages. And non-accolade parks made by ParkMakers that were hosted by NE for a decade, they were not included in the database for practical reasons, because POSIX they put so much in the site, but I can imagine they didn't enter hundreds of mostly irrelevant parks to the database. So I figured my task to fill in the gaps. So I started to add these hardly relevant parks, but it's a lot of work and still ongoing. But in the meantime, during all those years, I did have some backstage infrastructure and lists and whatnot to fill these gaps and to track them down and whatever. So I have a lot of stuff already sitting there. So that wasn't the hardest part, because a lot of old Spotlight parks that were missing, I have them. They're just waiting. So for me, this is an opportunity to fill some more gaps. That wasn't the hardest part, although there's always ones missing, and I always try to hunt them down. The hardest part, I think, is figuring out the release dates and stuff. That's really hard, because then you have to dive into the Internet Archive, which is a labyrinth with a lot of dead ends and isolated patches of working pages. Hard to find. It's challenging, but it's also so much fun. I feel like an archaeologist, diving into some 25-year-old internet ruins and looking for treasure. And then you come across all these things you didn't know or that you weren't looking for. So every time you open a door, there's 3 more doors that you can open, and it just grows and grows, and you find quotes that are fun, but are they relevant? And a lot of time goes into that. Yeah, looking through all the treasure, what can I include and what not include. Can I say something about what you're building?
You certainly can.
Can you please change the colors?
It's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, how can you build like this?
That's much better.
I think blue is not available, I think. If you go to the area on the right, it's also blue.
Oh!
Yeah. Maybe red.
Let's get some red.
I think red is available.
It'll have to be red then. I wanted to do a very classic kind of coaster, and I feel like people were a bit braver with like these like fun elements back in the day, so that's what I'm trying to embody with this. Should we talk a little bit about what I'm currently building on?
Yeah, sure.
So when we were brainstorming what we were going to do in this little call, what we should do in the background, because it's one thing when you have a Roller Coaster Tycoon guest like with a park, because you can just look at the park, but because we were talking about an essay, we can't sit there and look at the essay the whole time, can we? So I said maybe I'll build some loopy landscapes, because it seems like a great excuse to build some loopy landscapes. And then Liam said, I can do you one better. There's a Loopy Landscapes group park that needs somebody to build on it, so you could have a little shot at building that. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about this park that I'm building on? We don't want to give too much away because there was an unfinished version on the site, and we want it to be like a surprise for the world.
Tough to talk about something when you're not actually supposed to talk about it. But it's a fun project because it's an old group park. I suppose it's also from 20 years ago. And it didn't get very far, but then later a random person added an area. And then Intamin built something, I filled some gaps, and I deleted an area. And now there's just this corner left. And if we finish it, we could have a really good full-scale LL park on the site. It's just a matter of finishing this corner. It could be done in a week on paper. But I don't want to do everything by myself, so it's nice if someone else can step in and do this.
And do something for once.
Do you know what kind of theme you like to build?
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe like is there like an Egypt type section? Liam, thank you so much for joining me and talking a bit about your experience archiving this stuff, delving into the past. It's something that I don't know who else could have done this if you didn't. So thank you so much for doing this for the community, for our history, and as a resource for everybody to look through in the future. There's going to be a lot less wondering going on. So thank you so much, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Anyway, I'm so glad that you guys joined me for this episode. I'm really thankful to Liam for joining us to chat. I did have to cut down that conversation quite a bit, so in my back pocket I'm probably going to have the full conversation that I can release if I'm having a bit of a struggle to get an episode out one week. Hopefully we don't have to resort to that, and at some point I can just release it naturally, but I think it's always good to be prepared, because like I mentioned, I'm having some problems with my wrist. So yes, I will remind you guys, let me know what you think have been the most significant lessons that we've learned in Fundamental Forest to you, and let's prepare for an amazing episode 20. See you guys next Saturday.